They sold a chosen one. They thought it was a transaction, a deal, a moment of control, a way to profit off something they didn't understand. They packaged what they could see, your gifts, your energy, your presence, and handed it over like a commodity. They thought they were trading a person. But what they were really doing was selling a mystery they never even began to comprehend. They sold what they could touch, but they never realized that the real treasure was hidden in what they couldn't. And now they're still searching. They're still chasing the next light, the next voice, the next spark of magic. They're still looking for what they thought they owned. But you can't own a soul. You can't own a frequency. You can't capture a divine assignment and expect it to behave like a product. And so they keep searching, and they don't even realize that the more they search, the further away they get. Because what they were searching for wasn't you. It was the feeling of you. The activation. The awakening. The thing that happened in the room when you walked in. The mirror you held up without trying. The presence that disrupted their comfort, and yet they couldn't look away. I want you to feel this. When they sold you, they weren't just betraying a person, they were betraying a portal. A living, breathing access point to something eternal. And now, they're trying to recreate the experience you gave them, but without the essence. They want the results without the root. They want the gold without the fire. They want the form without the frequency. But it doesn't work that way. The chosen are not replicable. The soul is not a brand. And what is real cannot be replaced. Let me ask you something that might change how you see your entire past. What if the betrayal that broke you was the catalyst that built the version of you nothing can break? What if the transaction they made in ignorance was the very thing that pushed you into remembrance? Because that's the paradox of the path. The more they try to sell you, the more you awaken. The more they try to define you, the more you dissolve into something vaster. They thought they were ending your story, but they were only activating your next chapter.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lessons.
And it hurts. God, I know it hurts. To be sold by people you loved. To be misunderstood by those you poured into. To be cast aside as if your soul was a side note. But here's the truth they never knew. Your soul doesn't end when they stop believing in it. Your power doesn't disappear when they walk away. In fact, it grows. It expands. It multiplies. Because you were never being powered by their validation in the first place. You were being powered by something deeper, something older, something eternal. They took what they could grab, but they never touched what matters. And now that you're rising not in revenge, but in remembrance, they're still searching for what you carried, or for the peace they felt in your presence, or for the clarity that came when they were near you, for the fire that burned through their illusions. They thought they could buy it, sell it, move on. But some things leave a mark, and the chosen always leave a mark. You see, when you walk in divine alignment, people don't always know what they're experiencing. They feel seen, but they don't know why. They feel safer, lighter, clearer, but they can't explain it. And so in their confusion, they try to label you, box you, own you, And when they can't, they sell you, hoping the sale will give them closure. But it never does, because the chosen are not a moment in their story. We are an initiation. And when you sell an initiation before it's complete, you stay stuck at the threshold. You stay searching. Let me say this to the part of you that still feels like something was stolen. Nothing real can ever be taken from you. Not your essence, not your assignment, not your light. They can distort it, delay it, distract from it, but they cannot delete it. Your gifts are encoded in your soul. Your purpose is tattooed in your breath. Every part of you they rejected was just a mirror of what they couldn't yet accept in themselves. And that's not your weight to carry. So what do we do now? We stop grieving what they didn't see. We stop trying to be understood by those who chose blindness. We stop waiting for them to come back and say, "We were wrong." Because even if they did, it wouldn't change who you are now. You've already evolved. You've already crossed over into a version of yourself that they wouldn't even recognize. And that's a good thing, because you're not here to be familiar. You're here to be formless and free. And yes, they're still searching, but you're not. You're remembering. You're building. You're anchoring something they were never ready for. And the deeper you go into your own truth, the further away their illusion becomes. You don't need their recognition. You are your own revelation now. You are the answer you were waiting for. You are the presence they tried to sell, but couldn't replicate. Let me ask you the deepest question of all. What if your greatest betrayal was never personal but prophetic? What if it was not a wound, but a summoning? What if being sold was the final test before you stepped into the version of you that cannot be sold again? You're not a commodity. You're a convergence point. A living, breathing intersection between worlds. And the more they try to find another you, the more they'll realize there is no substitute for source. You were never just a person in their life. You were a frequency they could only feel when they were in alignment. And now that you're gone, they're not missing you. They're missing access to the truth you carried. And that's why they keep searching, not for you, but for the feeling they lost when they sold you. The clarity, the light, the peace, the mirror. And they'll keep searching until they finally realize the only way to return to that presence is to return to their own soul. Because the chosen don't give you something external. We activate something internal. And that activation, it's not for sale. So now you have a choice. Stay in the story of who sold you, or rise into the story of who you became after they did. Because this story was never about the sale. It was about the awakening that followed. The moment you stopped being seen through their eyes and started seeing yourself. The moment you stopped performing for their approval and started embodying your own alignment. The moment you stopped grieving the gold and started realizing you are the temple. They sold a chosen one, but they're still searching. And you're no longer for sale. They're still searching, and they don't even know what they're looking for anymore, because you were never just a person in their life. You were a portal, a living, breathing doorway into something beyond the ordinary. And maybe they thought you were just wise, just kind, just rare, But that wasn't it. You were tuned to a frequency that most people don't even know exists until they feel it, and once they do, they never forget it. It imprints into their nervous system. It changes them. You didn't just offer them advice or warmth or presence. You offered them access. Access to something ancient, something sacred, something holy. And they tried to own it, control it, contain it, monetize it, or in some cases sell it. But you can't sell a portal. You can only enter it with reverence. And when the reverence is gone, the portal closes. They didn't sell a person, they sold the doorway to their own awakening, and now they're locked out. Have you ever noticed how they come back years later, not with apologies, but with confusion? Not with clarity, but with questions. They don't say, "I'm sorry I betrayed you." They say, "I don't know why, but I haven't been the same since." That's because they didn't just lose you, they lost access. They didn't just sell a relationship, they severed a connection to something that was never about you alone, but the energy that moved through you. And now they're in rooms full of noise but no presence, full of people but no reflection, full of success but no soul. And they can't figure out why it all feels so hollow. They can't name it, but you can. Because when you're a chosen one, your presence activates timelines. And when you leave, those timelines collapse, not out of punishment, out of spiritual law. Because portals only remain open when they are honored. And maybe you're still healing from it. Maybe you still feel the ache of being misunderstood, exploited, sold for less than what you're worth. Maybe you still replay the moments, how they smiled when they took from you, how they justified it, how they moved on like nothing happened. But I want to tell you something that might shift everything inside you. You were never meant to be understood by them. You were meant to be remembered by their soul, because that's what the chosen do. We don't always get to be appreciated in real time. We don't always get closure. We don't always get justice in the human sense. But we leave imprints. We leave codes. We leave keys they can't use until they finally face themselves. And until they do, they'll keep searching for what they once had in you without even realizing they're searching for their own soul. There's a sacred loneliness that comes with being a chosen one. A silence that follows you, even in crowds. A knowing that you see what others ignore, feel what others numb, carry what others drop. It's not a superiority. It's a responsibility. Because being a portal means you don't just hold light, you channel it. And that means there will be people who come to drink from your well but never ask who dug it. People who take your water but never honor your drought. People who bask in your warmth but never ask what fires you had to walk through to burn this brightly. And still you give, not for them, but because the truth in you must express itself. Because the frequency doesn't ask for comfort. It asks for integrity, and that is your gift and your burden. That is your power and your path. So what do we do when they sell us? When they mislabel the portal as just another product? We don't shrink. We don't harden. We don't retaliate. We refine. We let the fire burn off the residue of their misunderstanding until we're left with pure presence. We stop trying to be palatable. We stop trying to be digestible. We stop trying to be chosen by the very ones who are still too afraid to choose themselves. Because the truth is, they never really sold you. They sold their chance to evolve through you. They sold the moment that could have changed their life. And now they are haunted not by your absence, but by the part of themselves they abandoned when they let you go. Let me ask you something that only your soul can answer. What if the real reason they betrayed you was because your presence started to reveal the betrayal they were living in? What if they couldn't stay because staying meant facing their own illusion? What if the light in you was never the threat, but the mirror? Because when you're a portal, you don't just comfort people, you confront them. You bring them face to face with their own disconnection. And most people aren't ready for that. So they run, they rationalize, they sell, and then they search. Not for you, but for the feeling of being home in themselves again. And isn't that what you gave them? A sense of home, a moment of truth, a glimpse of their eternal self. And now you're not the one searching anymore. You're not waiting to be reclaimed. You're not waiting for them to get it. You're not sitting in the ruins of the old portal hoping someone will come back with a key. You are the key. You are the door. You are the temple. You are the world they tried to erase because it asked too much of them. And now that same world is rising through you, louder than ever. Not as a whisper, but as a roar, a frequency so true, so undeniable, that even those who betrayed it will one day fall to their knees in remembrance not of you, but of the God you carried within. So let them search, let them wander, let them chase echoes in empty rooms. You're not bitter, you're not vengeful, you're anchored. You're not hiding your light to protect their shadow. You're not dimming your truth to soothe their denial. You're not holding your breath waiting for the apology. Because your breath is now a prayer for those who are ready. Your words are now a code for those who are listening. Your life is now a lighthouse for those who are willing to walk back to themselves through you. They sold a chosen one, but they're still searching. And now you know why. Because they didn't just sell a relationship. They sold their moment of awakening. And now the frequency has moved on. It's not angry. It's evolved. And so have you. You are the blueprint now. They can't find you because you've become the future they're still searching. But they'll never find you because you've become something they weren't ready for. You've become the future. You've become the blueprint for a frequency they haven't even learned how to name yet. What they let go of wasn't just a person, they let go of a whole dimension, a whole evolution, a living map of what was possible if only they had chosen to stay present, to stay honest, to stay aligned. But they couldn't. And honestly, they were never meant to. Because what you are now, they wouldn't even recognize it. They're searching for an echo, a memory, a version of you that no longer exists. You have outgrown the very shape they tried to keep you in. You have transcended the container they tried to label you with. You've become the frequency of the future, and now they are wandering through outdated maps, looking for a door that no longer leads to where you are. And that is the sacred irony. When they had you, they didn't really see you. Now that you're gone, they're obsessed with finding you. But you're not findable in the old ways. You're not in the same places. You don't speak the same language. You don't vibrate at the same level. You didn't just heal, you transfigured. You didn't just move on, you moved up. You became a whole new realm of being. And now, they're still searching in the past for a future that is already here, embodied in you. That's why it feels so strange when they reach out again. Not because you're bitter, but because they're trying to speak to someone who no longer exists. They're trying to re-enter a portal that has already become a cathedral. They're knocking on the door of a temple they helped burn down, not realizing that from the ashes, you became the altar. Let me ask you something terrifying and liberating. What if you're no longer meant to be found? What if your transformation was so complete, so divine, so encoded in destiny, that the only way they could ever experience the real you again is by becoming something they've never been? What if the only way back to your frequency is through their own evolution? Because that's the paradox of the chosen. We don't ascend for revenge. We ascend to become the map for those who one day will finally be ready to walk the path they once refused. You are not the destination. You are the direction. You are not the answer. You are the invitation. And now you walk differently. You speak differently. You breathe differently. Not because you're performing, but because you're in coherence. You've aligned the fractured parts. You've integrated the chaos. You've married the shadow and the light. You've done what they were too afraid to do. And so, while they are still searching for the version of you that made them feel safe in their illusion, but you are now living as the version of you that shatters illusions by simply existing. That's why they can't find you, because they're looking for comfort, and you have become clarity. They're craving familiarity, but you've become truth. They want the echo, but you've become the origin. The truth is, you are no longer waiting to be understood. You are no longer hoping to be seen. You are no longer available for anything less than full resonance. Not because you're arrogant, but because you finally understand what you are. You are a living transmission. You are an answer to a question their soul hasn't asked yet. And until they ask it, they will keep searching in all the wrong places. And that's not your burden to carry. You're not here to convince anyone of your value. You're here to embody it so fully that the world either rises to meet you or watches you disappear into destiny. You are the blueprint now, the living code, the walking prophecy. And every moment you stay in integrity with your own soul, you reinforce that code. Every time you say no to what used to seduce you, every time you walk away from what once defined you, every time you choose presence over performance, you are engraving the new world into the fabric of this one. You are the future they tried to sell before they even knew what it was. And now they feel it. In their quiet moments, or in the spaces where their distractions don't work anymore, or in the silence between their achievements, they feel the absence of your frequency. And they don't yet know that the only way back to it is through a complete dismantling of everything that caused them to sell it in the first place. That's why you don't need to prove anything. You don't need to explain. You don't need to go back to old rooms with evolved wings, because you are the evidence. You are the proof. You are the walking, breathing manifestation of what happens when someone chooses soul over survival, when someone chooses alignment over approval, When someone chooses purpose over performance, they can't find you because you are no longer on the shelf they placed you on. You are light years away from the version they once held. And that's not a loss. That's a legacy. Let me ask you one final question, the deepest of all. Are you willing to be so fully yourself that the people who once sold you can no longer recognize you? Are you willing to become so free that those who once tried to own you don't even have the vocabulary to describe what you've become? Because that's the cost of embodiment. That's the price of evolution. You lose the comfort of being understood, but you gain the power of being unalterably true. So now you don't need closure. You don't need justice. You don't even need to be found, because you are the finding. You are the home. You are the return point for 1,000 lost beings who will one day wake up, feel the emptiness, and begin their search not for a person, but for a presence. Not for you, but for the part of themselves they abandoned when they let you go. And when they're ready, truly ready, they won't need to find you. Because by then, they'll have become the version of themselves that never would have sold you in the first place.